Hello guys, welcome back to another video with me, HJ Fish. Now in this video we're going to be talking to you guys about the 10 best community fish. Now this can be anything that lives in harmony with all the fish in the aquarium, such as your catfish and your mid and bottom dwelling and top dwelling fish. Anything that gets along, doesn't attack inverts, doesn't go out of its way to be spiteful or harmful to other fish. Just an overall good fish that you can mix with other species. Now we're going to be talking about some of our very own fish which are in this 168 litre fluval tank. We can vouch for them ourselves because we watch them every day. We know that they're great community fish, so we can obviously put a good word in for them. But there's also going to be some on the top 10 list that we haven't actually got, but we have kept in the past. And if we haven't kept them in the past, we've definitely done our research and know that they're great community fish. So what we're going to do, work our way from 10 all the way down to number 1. Leave in the comment down below now what you think is going to be our number 1. I've figured it out for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be number 1. But what we're going to do is start off with number 10 and head down from there. So let's get in with it. So each of the fish that we mentioned, we'll add a little photo up here just so you guys know what fish we're talking about. Now coming in at number 10 at the very low end of the scale is the Corydoras. Now this is a eel-like loach, a long slender body, originates from the waters of Indonesia, and this is a fish, or let's say a loach, but we'll just say fish to make it easier. This is a fish that I can never see causing a trouble or an issue to any other fish. Now they're quite small in size and they stay fairly small, and you need them in a little school or a little group. Now this isn't a problem because again they won't eat everything on the floor and ransack your whole food, and they also won't be sort of not eating enough or doing their work. They're kind of considered a clean-up crew. Because of the size of them and the shape of them, they can get into spaces that not many other fish can get into, especially talking bottom feeders. Catfish are mostly big or bigger. These little Corydoras can get in great gaps and clear spots that you might not be able to reach in your aquarium otherwise. So they're a great addition, and again they're number 10 because they're not something that would ever bother anything, but again they're not really considered too much of a fish in terms of sort of seeing them visually too much. You could add 10 into say this tank here and you'd probably only see 1 or 2 at a time just because they're so well hidden. But that is not to say that they're not a great community fish. So number 10 is the Corydoras. So number 9 on our list is actually one of the families of the barbs. Now this is going to be a much far less aggressive species of barb, such as the cherry barb. Now this fish is drawn to a lot of hobbyist keepers purely because of the colours. Now there's a distinctive difference between males and females, but I'm pretty sure it's the males which are slightly smaller and have, like the name, such a cherry red colour, whereas the females tend to be a little bit more washed out. Now these are a fish that originate from Sri Lanka, and they're now also being found in waters in Mexico and Colombia. But in terms of barbs, you don't really get too many which are community based. Now a lot of people, you hear barbs and you think of tiger barbs. Now when you've got other fish with longish fins or just a decent sized fin, you might find that the tiger barbs can tend to nip a little bit. Not always, but depending on how you feed them, how big the tank is, tiger barbs aren't great, especially for community fish. There is an alternative, definitely very different in size, is definitely the tiger barb. It's definitely the cherry barb. Now again, this is something that can do with being in a good school, not just an individual, but it will pop in colour with a bright red, and some of the females do look really great as well. So if you get a good school from a good store, they should really make your tank pop. Now this is a barb which is small in size, so it wouldn't be big enough to bully another fish, but it's also not too small where it will get bullied on by other fish. So it makes it a good community fish where it should mix and get along with everything else swimming in the mid waters. Now number 8 on our list is personally one of my favourites, and this fish I could probably have 100 of, and I can just sit and watch them for hours and hours. We're talking about the Otter Sinclus. Now these are sometimes referred to as ottos or dwarf suckers. It depends where you're from in the world, but yeah, I just call them ottos. But the name Otter Sinclus, they're a South American fish, and I just think they are great. Now again, could do with being in a group. Although they don't school, it's good to have a group of them, not just one individual. And again, this is a fish where you want a few of them because you won't always see them due to the size. Now they're small in size and they've got a little sucker mouth, and you'll find them going everywhere in your aquarium. They'll be on the bogwood cleaning it, they'll be on the glass. Again, places you can't access. And again, because it's a catfish, they don't really tend to disagree or agree with any other fish. They're just kind of there, like they just get on. Obviously the bigger catfish can be predators in terms of eating, but these guys, I mean, they're minuscule in size and they've got a sucker mouth, not like a shovel mouth. So yeah, Otter Sinclus, really great little fish, and again, especially helping up with your cleanup crews, that would be great. I think in this tank here I've got 4, and honestly all I see him doing is working all the time, going around the front of the glass, the sides, they're on the wood. And again, it's not a fish you always see the most, but when you do see it you appreciate it that little bit more, just because it's not always obvious and smack bang in the middle. And again, like I say, a good community fish because it won't disagree or agree with anything. You'll put it in and no other fish will really take notice to it, and they're also quite hardy. So coming in at 8, the Otter Sinclus. Now coming in at number 7, I don't currently keep it in this tank here, but it was my very first freshwater fish. Now this is the zebra Danio. Now this is a close little fish to my heart, just because it got me into this hobby all these years ago, and this is when I was actually very uneducated and I used it for what a lot of people still use it for today. A lot of people still use it for today as cycling the tank. They'll get a couple of zebra Danios and do a fish in cycle, which obviously isn't recommended. Now there's so many different ways to do it, but that is a different topic and video in itself. But that is why they are also so popular, because most people end up getting them to cycle their tank, and then as the tank eventually matures and cycles, the Danios tend to be so hardy that they'll survive, and then you'll end up with Danios in your tank, and I think that is where they've become so popular. Now these are a South Asian fish, and they do often quite like a sort of decent amount of flow in their tank, but it's not to say that they can have complete no flow. They'll still be quite happy. Now these guys kind of do mid to high water, and they'll eat and eat and eat. They've got kind of trapdoor mouths, and again, you want them in a school. You don't want the one individual, you want a group of a good 5 or 6. And yeah, they're just really great fish. They're always active, they're blue and yellow. I'll put a photo up here. They're like blue and yellow, and they're just always moving. They're never just sat still like sometimes a molly or a play where it's just sat there. They're always up and down, up and down. They're great fish to watch. They really are. They're super active, and yeah, they eat great as well. They're hardy as ever. Like literally the hardiest fish I've ever kept is a zebra Danio. So yeah, I think definitely zebra Danio is worthy of this list for a community fish. Now coming in at 6 on our list may be the first controversial one, depending on what other community fish you decide to keep. Now number 6 is going to be the Betta Fish. I'll pop up a photo here. This is actually my mate Matt's, and he's called Little Timmy. He's a pretty cool guy, and really interesting to watch as well. So again, he's not in this tank, but I've got a mate who's got one, and he's so cool, and I used to have one a few years ago. But the reason I say community is because it depends what community you keep him in as an owner. Now you could keep him in a community full of angelfish and other harder community fish such as cherry barbs, or you could keep him in a community tank where it's just neons and cardinals and fish that won't really bother him. So it depends to you as an owner what you want to keep as a community tank, but on a very low end of community in terms of fish that can't pose no threats, such as your Tetras, a Betta Fish is going to be a great fish. Now these are sometimes called Siamese fighters, and again, they're from Southeast Asia. They've got a lifespan of about 2 to 5 years, but you want to make sure you get a nice healthy one. I see now in a lot of pet stores, some that are just in tiny little setups and they're just not doing great. So if you do get one, make sure you get it from a good person and it looks really good and healthy. But like I say, just be very mindful, down to yourself as a fish keeper, what you keep with it. It can definitely be a thriving community species if you keep it with stuff like shrimp, cardinal tetras, neons, rummy nose, but it won't do as great in a tank with say cherry barbs and other fish like that. Fish that are a little bit more on the nippier side, or any kind of cichlid species. So yeah, definitely number 6, a little bit controversial, but I think if you do it right, a Betta Fish can definitely be classed as a community fish. Now this is a little bonus clip. It's not going to be number 5 on our list. This is just a little bonus one because again, it's technically not a fish, so I didn't really want to count it. But in terms of communities, you've got all of your shrimp and your snails. Now, the snails are more or less indestructible unless you have things like assassin snails or Pakistan loach, because they will obviously go through as loaches and suck the snails through, and assassin snails will assassinate other snails. But in terms of your snails, you can keep basically anything. Just be mindful if you have got live plants. I've in here got ram's horn snails, the ones that are really nice, like strawberry colour. I think they're great. And again, I've also got in here Amano shrimp and cherry shrimp. So again, I've got a community tank. None of these shrimp get bothered, none of them get chased, and they get on really well and they breed great. So that just shows you that you can have shrimp in a community tank, as long as you're mindful about what you have in that community. So yeah, as a bonus clip, cherry shrimp, Amano shrimp, bamboo shrimp, wood shrimp, any kind of shrimp, along with snails as well. But that's the bonus. Let's get on with number 5. Now, coming in at number 5 on our list, we've made it to the halfway point. Now, the reason this fish is 5th and not higher up or lower down is because, again, it depends on you as a fish keeper, where you keep it and what you keep it with. Now, this photo popping up right now is my personal angelfish in this tank. Now, this guy lives with cherry barbs, with cherry shrimp and Amano shrimp, and again, it doesn't bother him. But it's not to say that yours won't. Each individual fish is different, and it also depends on the size of the aquarium and what they're housed with. So 5th is the angelfish, and these are found in the Amazon River Basin, Peru, stuff like that. Really good South American fish. Now yes, they are classed as a cichlid, so that can pose them to be more aggressive, but mine, when I watched him in the store, he was with a load of other angelfish and he did kind of chase a few, but they were all doing it. Now that's just kind of the aggression. They're in a small little holding tank, but now he's in here. He was a little bit nippy towards the plays because they were very fast moving, but since he's been in for 2-3 weeks now. He's a zebra angelfish, and now he don't bother the shrimp, he don't bother anything really. A snail will fall down and it will often like sort of chase it, but that'd be about it. If anything invades his space too much, he'll give it like a little flare up, but he won't actually go after it and attack it. So yeah, definitely controversial depending on what you keep, how big your tank is. There's variable factors, but again, if you do it right, like the Betta Fish, an angelfish can definitely be a good community fish. So that's why it's number 5 on our list. Now, number 4 on our list, you might have actually thought it would be further up the top end, but I'm putting it number 4 for a few reasons. It's not actually a fish, but it's classed as a set of fish. Now, we're going to talk about Livebearers. So these are your platies, your mollies, your guppies, all kind of stuff like that. Stuff that are super easy to keep, mostly hardy, and are very easy to breed and have live babies. So, like I say, in here we've got platies. Now, these were the first fish in our tank, and our tank's been set up for about 4 months now, and we've already got a crazy amount of babies in there. I mean, like a ridiculous amount. I count at least 4 or 5. And we've only got 4 adult platies in there. We've got 1 male and 3 female. So Livebearers are pretty popular, especially for people starting out or people that just want a very low end maintenance community tank. They don't have to sort of do too much, they don't have to worry too much about water parameters, stuff like that. That's where Livebearers come in and are very popular. So I know a lot of people that just keep as a hobby and nothing else, and they have loads of guppies, platies, mollies, balloon mollies, stuff like that. And again, you'll find it hard. If you were to ask, say, 50 people, I reckon a good sort of at least half, at least 25 would have some kind of Livebearer. Again, just be mindful of your guppies because they have that long thin tail, so you've got to be mindful of stuff like your angelfish. So again, it's down to you as an owner what to mix and what not to mix as a community, but as long as you do your research, you'll be fine. So I don't keep guppies, I keep platies. They're Livebearers, but they don't bother the angelfish. But if I were to have guppies in there, then I think I'd have a bit of a trouble. But like I say, as long as you research what you're putting in, you shouldn't have any issues. Again, super easy to keep, super easy to maintain, and really cool to have babies as well. So that covers number 4. Let's get into the top 3. Now, the first fish to make it on the top 3 in 3rd place is the Corydoras. Now, this is a great little community catfish. Again, you want them in schools. You definitely don't want 1 or 2. They'll be extremely shy. You want them in schools of at least 5 or 6. I've got 9 in here, and I'll put up a photo here. I think they're called bandit cories, but again, there are so many different variations you can get now. You can get the standard bronze, you can get gold, black, peppered. Yeah, like I say, there are so many, panda. But yeah, do your research, and again, as long as you have them in a good group of 5 or more, they should really thrive. Now, these are a little catfish that dwell just on the bottom, but will sometimes shoot up to the top and come back down. But again, they'll predominantly be on the bottom of your tank. So they'll be out of all the other free swimming fish, out of their way completely, because they'll be down on the ground around this area. They'll be all in and out of the wood, in and out of the plants, picking up all the leftover food and the pellets. Now, they're great fish because they're quite hardy. Nothing will really go out of their way to bother them. Again, because they're down on the ground, nothing will be bothered to come down there enough to hassle them. They kind of keep themselves to themselves. And again, the more you have, they'll be quite timid at the start, but you have more and that'll kind of bring them out of their shell. They're great little fish. Again, good for the cleanup because they just get up all the leftover debris. So yeah, a really good fish. Catfish, like I say, so you don't have to be too mindful of it eating anything other fish wise because they're really small. You can even get miniature pygmy catfish, Corydoras, pygmy cories. But yeah, in terms of number 3, I think Corydoras are great because I don't see why you wouldn't want them in your tank. They do all the work for you on the bottom as well as you do in your maintenance. And yeah, it's just great to watch. Like, again, you don't always see them, but when you do, you appreciate them. They keep out of all the other fish's way. They're cool, they're interesting. You see them sift through the sand with their little whiskers. Just a super interesting fish. So for that reason, they hit 3rd spot. Now, coming in at 2nd, our runners up are technically 2 fish, the neon or the cardinal tetra. Now, I personally think, when I got into fish keeping 5 or 6 years ago, I personally think that the neon tetra was everywhere. Like, it was the fish that everybody wanted, it was a fish that everybody kept. They were known, like if you mention saltwater, you think of clownfish, or I do anyway, and I feel like if you mention freshwater, you think of neon tetra. It's just kind of like they've always been there. So for that reason, I think almost everyone has kept or will keep neon tetra. They're a good size, don't get too big, they're not really small either, they're just a little sort of good group. And again, you want them in a good group of sort of 5 or more. The more you get, the more confident they'll be coming out. They've got great colours on them. They're fish where you can have blue and red. That is great. So you get kind of like good colours, a good school of them. You don't just get the one individual. You see 4, 5 or 6 of them, you know, or even more, 7 or 8. I personally in here keep cardinals just because I like the colour contrast more. I like the complete colour on the bottom and on the top, so split in half. Whereas the neons, you get that little white patch under the sort of mouth. But again, overall, they're very similar. I just think they both look great. Again, community-wise, super friendly. They won't bother anything. Like they're so friendly. They won't bother nothing. Mid-swimming, so that's great as well. So you'll always see them. They'll never really hide. And as long as you don't have nothing too big in there to eat them, you should be fine. Now, a lot of people say don't keep angelfish and neons or cardinals. I've got an angelfish in here with cardinals. He's never one to chase after them because they're a good size, and my angelfish is a baby. So again, you've got to play them things in. You've got to, like, you know, be responsible as a keeper. Keep them factors in. Depends how you house your other fish and what you've got in there. But I definitely think everyone has kept, or at least knows, the very famous neon tetra. Now, coming in at our number 1 spot is the Pleco. Now, I think every aquarium has at least kept or want to keep a Pleco. Now, again, this is something as a fish keeper you've got to be very responsible for. In here, I have a Colombian zebra Pleco, otherwise known as a false zebra Pleco. I'll add up a little photo, and that is my most recent fish. So this tank has been Plecoless for about 3 or 4 months. And again, I just felt as a fish keeper I needed a Pleco in the tank to complete it. So I went out and got one, but not before doing my research. Now, this Pleco that I've got, the Colombian zebra Pleco, is going to be a suitable size for this 168 litre for its entire life. I didn't go out and get a Royal Phantom or something that gets really big and I'll have to move on as the years progress. So make sure, if you want a Pleco, do your research. Some get really big, some get really small, some are just medium. So make sure, see what tank you've got. If you're going to upgrade in the future, fine, get whatever you want. But be mindful as a responsible fish keeper what Pleco you want. I also think they're number 1 because again, when you see them, they're so cool, they're so different. Everyone loves the bristle nose. That was my first Pleco bristle nose. Thought that was so cool. Couldn't believe that like little branches coming off. Just thought they were like really cool. And there's not really any kind of Pleco species that you'll dislike, in terms of there's so many different ones. You're bound to like at least one. So yeah, if you don't like that one, go to the next. If not, the next. So there's definitely something for everybody in the market. I'd be very rare if you went through the whole list and said you didn't like a single one. Do you know what I mean? You can get black ones, blue ones, dotty ones, frilly ones, albino ones. There is something for everybody. So I think for that reason, everybody can definitely add a Pleco to their community tank. Now, in terms of other fish, it will not bother anything. If you've got a catfish, the Pleco might sort of have a little argument who gets the wafer first, but it definitely wouldn't bother or cause any distress or harm. And again, other fish, free swimming fish, won't bother them. Most of the time it will be hidden under wood or sort of in the corners of the glass, but again, it really won't bother any fish and it won't cause no harm. So I think for that reason, Pleco is number 1 on my list. But other than that, that has basically covered our top 10 in communities, but there's definitely others that will fit in there. What do you guys think down below is a number 1 community fish, and what fish do you think I've missed out that I definitely could have included? But like I say, if you guys have enjoyed this video, we can do many more videos like this in terms of 10 worst, anything, any kind of topic, such videos we can cover. But like I say, that is our 10 best community fish. Now we can also do videos like 5 best tetras and stuff like that, 5 best catfish. We can expand in detail. So if you want more videos like that, let us know down below. But that is basically the video in one. Hopefully you've enjoyed all the photos we've added up, and let us know if you're going to get any of these 10 fish for your community aquarium. But other than that, that has been the video. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for another video next week.